I never expected a simple haircut to turn my world upside down. There I was, sitting in the upscale salon in downtown Chicago when the stylist sneered, "People like you shouldn't be in here, flaunting your lesbian lifestyle." Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the air like a siren. "Back off or I'll have you arrested for harassment." The room went dead silent. I turned my head slowly, heart slamming against my ribs, and there she stood, Bonnie Ramirez, badge already out, shoulders squared in that way I remembered from late-night study sessions 10 years ago. She wasn't in uniform, just dark jeans and a leather jacket, but the Chicago PD shield flashed under the salon lights like a warning. "Detective Bonnie Ramirez," she announced, voice steady and cold. "That comment qualifies as harassment based on sexual orientation. Apologize to Ms. Thompson right now, or we're taking a ride downtown." The stylist's face drained of color. Customers shifted in their chairs, phones half raised but suddenly frozen. I sat there, cape still snapped around my neck, hair half cut, feeling every eye on me. Angela Thompson, assistant district attorney, the woman who had spent years perfecting the art of being untouchable, was suddenly exposed in the most mundane place possible. My phone lay on the counter, screen still glowing from the call I'd taken minutes earlier. A quick check-in with my campaign manager about the upcoming DA race. One careless sentence about her, and the stylist had decided to play judge. Bonnie didn't wait for the apology. She unclipped my cape with practiced efficiency, helped me up and steered me toward the door. Her hand on my elbow was light but unmistakable, protection, not possession. Outside, the January wind off Lake Michigan slapped my face, sharp and real. I pulled my coat tighter, trying to steady my breathing. "Bonnie," I managed, voice hoarse. "I thank you." She studied me for a long second. The same dark eyes that once made me forget every ambition I had. "You look like you're about to pass out, Angela. Come on, there's a coffee place around the corner." "My treat. You can tell me why the next DA of Cook County is letting some idiot with scissors get under her skin." We walked in silence for half a block. My mind raced through the damage control checklist. Who had seen who might talk, how fast this could reach the wrong ears at the office. My rival, Victor Lang, was already circling the DA position like a shark. One whisper that I was anything but the perfect, polished, straight-laced prosecutor and my entire 10-year climb would collapse. Bonnie kept pace beside me, hands in her pockets, badge tucked away again. She looked older, sharper, the soft college girl replaced by someone who had seen too many streets at 3 a.m. Yet the way she glanced at me carried the same quiet certainty that had once made me feel safe. Inside the small cafe, we claimed a corner table. She ordered 2 black coffees without asking, she still remembered. When the mugs arrived, she leaned forward. "You changed your number 3 times since graduation." I stopped trying after the second. "Figured you were serious about leaving that part of your life behind." Her tone wasn't bitter, just factual, the way cops state evidence. I wrapped my hands around the warm ceramic. I was. Law school, clerkship, the DA's office, every step demanded I be bulletproof. No distractions. No weaknesses. The words tasted like ash. Then today happens and suddenly the past is standing in front of me with a badge. Bonnie's mouth twitched into that crooked half-smile. "Funny how life works. I transferred back to Chicago PD 6 months ago. Homicide. Figured if I couldn't have the girl, at least I could have the city that took her." She paused, eyes softening. "You still running for DA?" "Announcement in 6 weeks. Polls look good if I stay clean." I met her gaze. "Clean meaning invisible, Bonnie. What happened in there if it leaks?" "It won't from me." She reached across the table, not touching, just close enough that I felt the old pull. "But Angela, you look terrified in that chair." "Not of the stylist. Of being seen. 10 years and you're still carrying the same weight." I wanted to argue, to tell her I had built something real, something powerful. Instead I sipped the coffee and felt the first crack in the armor I had spent a decade forging. Because the woman across from me wasn't just my first love. She was the only person who had ever seen me without the suit, the title, the careful smile. And now she was back. Right when one misstep could cost me everything I had sacrificed her for. By the time we left the cafe, the sky had turned the color of wet concrete. Bonnie walked me to the parking garage where my Audi waited, the same car I had bought the day I made assistant DA. She didn't ask for my new number. She simply held out her phone. Text me when you're ready. No pressure. But if you need backup, real backup, you know where to find me. I drove home on autopilot, the Salon humiliation replaying in my head like a bad deposition. That night I stood in my empty apartment overlooking the river, scrolling through campaign photos on my laptop. Every image showed the same composed woman. Tailored suits, confident handshake, zero hint of the life I kept locked away. I opened the drawer where I kept one old photo. Bonnie and me at graduation, arms around each other, laughing like the world couldn't touch us. I hadn't looked at it in years. Closing the drawer felt like closing a door I wasn't sure I wanted shut anymore. 3 days later my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Salon incident stayed quiet. Checked the owner, they fired the stylist. You're clear. B. Simple. Professional. Yet my pulse jumped. I typed back before I could stop myself. Thank you. Coffee tomorrow? My turn. We met at a quiet place in Lincoln Park, far from downtown and prying eyes. Bonnie arrived in her detective jacket, hair still damp from the gym. She looked exhausted. A double homicide case had kept her up for 36 hours, but her smile when she saw me was real. We talked carefully at first. Her promotion to lead detective, my latest win in court against a city councilman's son. Then the conversation turned, inevitable as gravity. You ever regret it? She asked quietly, stirring sugar into her coffee even though she hated it sweet. Walking away the night before my academy graduation? I set my cup down. Every single day I regret the way I did it. Not the choice. I needed to finish law school without distractions. But the way I said it was over, like you were a liability instead of the best thing that ever happened to me. The confession hung between us, raw and unscripted. My father was running for state senate then. One rumor in his campaign would have tanked. I told myself I was protecting us both. Bonnie nodded once, absorbing it. And now? You're the one running. Same rules. Stricter. Victor Lang is gunning for the same seat. He already leaked that one of the junior prosecutors is gay to tank his promotion last year. If he even suspects about me, I didn't finish. I didn't have to. She reached across the table this time, fingers brushing mine for the first time in a decade. The contact sent electricity up my arm. Then we stay careful. No public anything. But Angela, I'm not asking you to choose again. I'm asking if there's still something here worth being careful for. I didn't pull away. For the first time in years I let myself feel it. The ache, the want, the terrifying possibility that the life I had built might not be enough if it meant living without her. We left the cafe separately, 10 minutes apart, like professionals covering tracks. But that night I slept better than I had in months, her number saved under B-Gym contact, in case anyone ever looked. The next morning at the office, Victor Lang cornered me in the break room. Heard you had a little excitement at the salon last weekend, Thompson. Everything okay? His smile was all teeth. I kept my face neutral, heart suddenly racing for an entirely different reason. The machine was already turning. One wrong move and the careful distance Bonnie and I had just agreed on would become the weapon that destroyed us both. The double homicide Bonnie was working landed on my desk 2 weeks later. The victim was a major donor to my campaign, a construction magnate whose company had been under federal investigation for months. I stared at the case file in my office, the city lights of Chicago glittering beyond the window, and realized the universe had a cruel sense of humor. Bonnie's name was listed as lead detective. We would have to work together officially now, every meeting a landmine. We set the first strategy session for a Friday evening in a neutral conference room at the courthouse. I arrived early, notes perfectly organized, armor firmly in place. Bonnie walked in 5 minutes later, files under one arm, expression all business. Only the brief flicker in her eyes when our gazes met betrayed anything personal. We kept it clinical. Timelines, witness lists, possible plea deals. But when the junior prosecutor left to take a call, the air changed. Lang's been asking questions about the salon, she said quietly, stacking papers. He cornered one of my uniforms yesterday, wanted to know if I knew you personally. My stomach tightened. What did you tell him? The truth, that we went to the same college and I intervened as any officer would. Nothing more. She leaned closer, voice dropping. But Angela, he's digging. I can feel it. In this case, if the defense connects you to the victim through me, It gives him the perfect opening. I rubbed my temples. Then we keep everything separate. Professional only. No more coffees, no texts after 8. The campaign can't afford even the appearance. The words came out colder than I intended. Bonnie's jaw tightened, but she nodded once. That weekend she texted anyway, just one line. Victim's wife gave a new statement. Thought you should see it before Monday. Attached was a scanned document. I read it at 2 a.m., pacing my living room, and realized Bonnie had risked her own case notes to give me an edge. The gesture cracked something inside me. I called her instead of texting back. Her voice was rough with sleep. Angela. I'm sorry, I whispered. I hate doing this to us again. A long pause. I know. But I also know what this seat means to you. I'm not asking you to blow it up. Just don't shut me out completely. Not this time. We talked for 20 minutes about nothing and everything. Her partner on the force who kept trying to set her up with straight women. My mother's weekly calls asking when I was going to settle down with a nice man. When we hung up, I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Cause and effect. Every step closer to Bonnie was another step closer to the edge of the cliff I had spent years walking away from. Monday morning, Victor Lang dropped a folder on my desk with a flourish. Thought you might want to see this before the press conference. Old college yearbook photos can be so revealing. Inside was a grainy printout of Bonnie and me at a campus pride event, arms linked, laughing. My face went cold. He smiled. Relax, Thompson. I'm not the enemy. I'm just saying, in this game, secrets have a way of coming out at the worst possible moment. Wouldn't want anything to distract from your big announcement. I kept my voice steady. Thanks for the heads up, Victor. I'll keep that in mind. But inside, the first real panic took root. The power struggle had officially begun, and the first casualty was going to be the fragile trust Bonnie and I were trying to rebuild. The press conference went off without a hitch. I announced my candidacy for district attorney with all the right sound bites. Tougher on corruption, safer streets, justice for every Chicagoan. Cameras flashed, donors clapped, and Victor stood in the back row applauding loudest of all. Only I saw the threat behind his smile. That night I met Bonnie in the parking lot of an all-night diner on the south side. Far from anyone who mattered. She was in uniform this time, fresh off shift, gun on her hip like a reminder of the worlds we inhabited. You looked good up there, she said, handing me a paper cup of terrible coffee. Like you were born for it. I was. The words felt heavy. But Victor has that photo, Bonnie. He hasn't used it yet, but he will. And if he ties it to this case, your case, the defense will scream conflict of interest. My campaign dies, your investigation gets tossed. We both lose. She stared at the passing traffic. So what's your move, counselor? Because I'm not walking away again unless you tell me to. I wanted to say stay. I wanted to reach for her hand right there under the neon sign. Instead, I did what ambition demanded. We pause. No contact outside official channels until after the primary. I can't risk it. The sentence landed like a verdict. Bonnie's face didn't change, but something behind her eyes dimmed. Copy that, she said quietly. Professional only. I'll have the updated witness list on your desk by morning. She turned to go, then stopped. Just so we're clear. This isn't me choosing the badge over you. This is me choosing not to be the reason your dream burns. She walked away into the night, shoulders straight, and I sat in my car until the coffee went cold. The decision was logical, necessary, the direct consequence of every choice I had made since college. Yet the emptiness that followed felt like punishment I had written myself. 2 weeks of silence stretched between us. I threw myself into the campaign, speeches, fundraisers, strategy sessions where Victor watched me like a hawk. Then the break came. Bonnie's team arrested the victim's business partner, and the man immediately asked for a meeting with me, off the record. I went alone to the holding area. When the door opened, Bonnie was already inside, reading the suspect his rights one last time. Our eyes met for the first time since the diner. The air crackled with everything we weren't saying. The suspect smirked when he saw me. Heard you and Detective Ramirez go way back. College sweethearts, right? Be a shame if that got out during trial. My blood ran cold. Bonnie didn't flinch. She simply stepped between us, voice ice. Threatening a prosecutor is a new charge, pal. Want to add it to the list? Later in the hallway she spoke first. He's bluffing. No proof. But Angela, this is what I warned you about. Every time you climb higher, the target on us gets bigger. I wanted to apologize, to tell her the pause was killing me. Instead I said, "Thank you for having my back." Again. Then I walked away, heels echoing, because the alternative, reaching for her, would have been the end of everything I had sacrificed to get here. The leak happened on a Tuesday. A conservative blog posted grainy security footage from the Salon, me being escorted out by Bonnie, her hand on my arm, the moment frozen like evidence. The headline read, "DA candidate's secret lesbian past exposed. Cop ex-girlfriend involved in major murder case." My phone exploded before I even finished reading. Campaign manager screaming, donors pulling out, Victor's office already leaking statements about ethical concerns. I drove straight to the precinct. Bonnie met me in the stairwell, face pale. Internal Affairs is already asking questions. They think I compromised the investigation because of you. Her voice was steady, but I heard the strain. I told them the truth. We hadn't spoken in years until that day. They don't believe me. I leaned against the concrete wall, suddenly exhausted. Victor did this. He had someone in the salon that day. This is his play to force me out of the race. The cause was clear. My ambition had created the opening, and now the consequence was here. I can deny everything. Say it was a one-time coincidence. But Bonnie, if I do that, I lose you for good. She looked at me for a long moment. The woman who had once given up everything for me now facing the same choice in reverse. Don't deny who you are, Angela. Not for a job. Not even for me. I survived losing you once. I'll survive again if it means you get to live honestly. Her words hit harder than any betrayal. Because in that stairwell I finally understood the real cost. Not just the election, but the slow erosion of the person I had become. That night I called an emergency press conference. Cameras flashed as I stood at the podium, heart hammering. Yes, Detective Ramirez and I knew each other in college. Yes, she protected me from harassment. And yes, I am a lesbian. If that disqualifies me from serving the people of Chicago, then so be it. But I will not lie anymore. The room erupted. Victor's face in the front row was a mask of triumph and fury. Bonnie watched from the side entrance, expression unreadable. I had just handed my rival the weapon he needed. And in doing so, I had finally chosen something bigger than the title. The primary results came in 3 weeks later. I lost by 4 points. Victor Lang took the nomination amid whispers that my personal issues had cost the party. The DA's office offered me a quiet transfer to a low-profile division. I declined. Instead, I opened a small practice focusing on civil rights cases, the kind of work that didn't require hiding who I was. It wasn't the power I had chased for 10 years, but it was honest. Bonnie stayed. Not because I asked her to, but because after the press conference she showed up at my apartment with 2 pizzas and a 6-pack. "Figured you might need company," she said simply. We didn't talk about the election that night. We talked about everything else, the years we had missed, the cases we had both carried alone, the future that no longer required secrecy. For the first time since college, I let myself hold her without calculating the risk. 3 months later we stood together at a pride event downtown. Hands openly linked. No one cared about the former candidate or the detective. They just saw 2 women who had finally stopped running. The power struggles, the cold decisions, the betrayals, they had all led here, to a quieter life where love wasn't a liability. Yet sometimes, late at night when Bonnie's breathing is steady beside me, I still wonder about the road not taken. The title, the office, the legacy. I made my choice. The consequences were mine. And I would make the same one again. True or false? In a world that forces women to choose between love and ambition, choosing honesty always means losing power?